I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all the right know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien. Two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.
So, hello again and welcome to another episode of Quick Question with Soren and Daniel there. The podcast where two best friends and comedy writers ask each other questions and give each other answers. I'm one half of that podcast, senior writer for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, author How to Fight Presidents, Don't You Know? And as always, it's our accent episode of the podcast where we do have accents the entire episode. And I'm, appropriately enough, Daniel O'Brien, saying top of the morning, and my co-host Soren, who's been working on his accent as well. He's going to go right now. Soren, say hello.
Hello, Daniel. It's such a pleasure to be here. I love to do podcasts with you. I want to know, next time we do something like this, I love if you give me some heads up. Is that the word? Heads up. That we'll be doing this so that I can prepare, so I don't just have to come in and do it blind, you understand?
Thanks to Rocket Money for supporting Quick Question. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/QQ.
My favorite choice of yours for the Russian character that you're doing is you're still trying to find English idioms. You're still like how you say heads up.
Yeah, he does it, and he's not quite got it. Yeah.
You can decide how much he knows and it makes your life easier.
It's better if I just don't try to do an accent, if I just try to do a different person. And so I was that's who that guy was. He didn't have it all set yet.
That makes a lot of sense. That reminds me of
By the way, hold on, sorry, just one really quickly. Great Northern Irish accent there, Daniel.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Good.
Well, I'm also
Thank you.
notoriously bad at telling accents, but like I thought I wasn't hearing any chinks in that armor.
Oh, great. That's really good to hear. I was excited for whatever you were going to do. I think I guessed it would have been Australian. Russian is really smart. It also reminded me of when our old job, Crack.com, would occasionally do a live show of live sketch comedy, which I think we did 3 times in 10 years of working together. There was a sketch that involved Michael at the gates of heaven playing a dead Russian hitman, and I believe this was, if not his script, then this was his part. Yeah, this was his. And you meet this Russian character who's just talking about like the point of the sketch was a bunch of people got into heaven for seemingly like on paper really terrible crimes, but the one person who was denied entry to heaven was someone who accidentally had their testicles smashed to bits because like that was Michael found somewhere in the Bible that you're not allowed to have that happen to you, and that was the one thing that Saint Peter guarding the gates took seriously. So you meet Michael's Russian mafia character who was just talking about, really, you let me into heaven, but I killed many people. Only women and children, niet men. And the kicker
John Malkovich,
yeah, and they're still like letting him into heaven. And the kicker for his character was that he also doesn't speak a word of Russian, only broken English. And it's such like
that's a great bit.
A hat on a hat detail. It's such an unnecessary thing for the character. It's not the game of the sketch at all, but it's such a funny bit that lodged in my brain forever. That this guy that you thought was just doing like his best with English as a second language. No, it's his only language, and he sucks at it. It's like the guy is such a like reprehensible person that he has even chosen to make his way of communication everyone else's problem everywhere he goes. It's just such a funny little
Well, because it requires
detail.
so much work. It requires
Yeah.
so much work to have developed an accent learning the language. Like to barely learn the language, but also to learn it with an accent is very, very, it's a really funny decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. I considered, so I briefly played Dungeons and Dragons with Michael. And Michael had created a whole campaign.
There's a
Really
way
sorry-
to briefly play Dungeons and Dragons. That was always
No.
my problem with the Endeavor.
No, that's in fact this I felt really badly because he had created in his brain this whole campaign. Like he had something built and he had characters, he had bosses, he had bad guys, all figured out, and it basically was in the early or like mid 1800s, and it was Western. It was like a cool Western idea, and he had it mapped. Like he had the whole thing, the whole arcs, like everything figured out. And he's like, I just need people to play it. And I was like, I would love to do this. And so I did it with, I think, Jen and Brendan and some other people. And the character that he gave me was the analog was he was like early like Mexico. So it's like Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and everything. That was all included in it. And so we came into the room and we're all playing, like we all start to play and we all start talking about our characters as our characters, like introducing ourselves to each other when we meet in the tavern or whatever. And I go right into a Mexican accent and everyone goes, whoa. And I was like, you encouraged us to do this. Like the entire way you baited me into this. You were like, this is your character. Please be in your character. Like, please come as your character. And I was like, what options did you give me?
And not that you're like going around your life looking for opportunities that society denies you to use an accent that you have no business using. It's not that you're like itching to try it out. But in a house with your friends,
safe space.
If that's not a safe space, then what is? Like,
I'll also say that if whatever you're picturing
where can
right
you
now,
try out the voices in your head?
it was more toned down than whatever you're picturing. I was not doing a like Three Amigos like
Yeah, you don't need to do it. You absolutely don't need to do it here.
I was doing like a really like toned down version. He was, and still everyone was like, no, I can't listen to it. I can't. It's not gonna work.
When I was in high school theater, just because there's a finite amount of musical theater boys who are willing to do things and play parts, you get to stretch a whole lot and play a lot of different roles. So I'm playing 50-year-old men, like adult men, and also 1 year in a chorus line, a 20-something homosexual Puerto Rican, Paul San Marco. And there was a lot of talk, like once I'd gotten the part where it's like, are you gonna like do a bunch of tanning, and are you gonna do like a little voice? God. And even then, even in like 2002, this must have been, it was like, nope, I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Are we gonna change the lines? Nope. It's just me talking about how silly it is to be a first generation Puerto Rican in New York learning musical theater. And they're like, okay, we're all just gonna go with it. This is gonna be the illusion of theater.
That's an amazing foresight, because I don't know, a lot of high schools end up doing Fiddler on the Roof, and that's full of landmines. That's like a lot of opportunities to do like a real lean into the Yiddish voice. And in fact, the script occasionally demands it. And we did that in my mud pit of a school. And that was, I'm so glad the internet didn't exist and that we just didn't know any better then.
Right. Because I feel like a lot of kids, depending on where you grew up, where it's like, all right, now you're playing an adult rabbi. Can you do that? And you're like, well, my touchstones are the Simpsons and Looney Tunes, but yeah, I think I got it. I think I'll just do Krusty's dad. That's fair, right? It was before we pat 16-year-old Daniel on the back too hard. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that was just like an acknowledgement of the limits of my acting ability and less about like prescience about social norms evolving. That might have just been me being like, I don't know, I need like region specific Puerto Rican accent, and anything I do that I think is that, it's going to be offensive, it's going to be wrong, it's going to be not, it won't sell as anything.
That's the worst part. You're like,
Yeah.
can I sell this?
Right. And also, like again, don't pat 16-year-old Daniel on the back, because at the same time, I'm thinking, look, I'm not going to do an offensive Puerto Rican stereotype. You have to understand, I'm 100% focused on offending the homosexual community. You forgot the other half of this character that, for some reason, I at 16 years old was like, yeah, I can handle this with delicate hands for sure. Yeah. I can play this
I got
seriously.
This.
Yeah.
Get ready for some aplomb, because this is going to be good. Oh, man.
Hey, it's that time of year again where my son goes back to school, and I'm reminded of all the apps that I downloaded the year before for his classes and for the extracurricular stuff that he was doing. And you'd be surprised at how many of those things I was paying money for. I didn't realize he had math games, and I was paying a monthly subscription for him to play math games. Spoiler, he didn't like any of them. He didn't play them ever. And not till he goes back to school and I'm reminded, oh yeah, that thing. I wonder, I should go check on that. Oh, it's been slowly siphoning off money from my account for the whole year. Fantastic. Well, you don't have to live like I do. How much do you think you're paying in subscriptions every month? The answer is probably way more than you think. Over 74% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. Most Americans think they spend $62 per month on subscriptions. Those rubes, those absolute idiots. The real number is closer to $300. That is literally thousands of dollars a year, half of which you've probably forgotten about. So, you've got some options. You can closely track your bank statements, just look over those numbers like a hawk, get yourself a bookie, or you can use Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. With Rocket Money, you can have full control over your subscriptions and clear view of your expenses. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place and see if something is there that you don't want. Rocket Money can help cancel that with a few steps. I love how the dashboard shows me the month's spending compared to last month, so I can clearly see my spending habits. Plus, they'll help me create a custom budget and keep my spending on track. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you, up to 20%. All you have to do is submit a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money will take care of the rest. They'll deal with customer service for you. They do the dirty work. Your hands stay clean, my friends. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/QQ. That's rocketmoney.com/QQ. rocketmoney.com/QQ. Hey, Daniel, do you want to do our podcast?
Yeah, let's do our podcast.
Okay, I have a quick question for you.
Go.
Did you get something in the mail from me?
I did get something in the mail from you. I'm not in a position right this second to hold it up.
Okay.
Should we just talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about it, and then you can grab it if you can find the 10 minutes you need to shuffle out of that seat.
Yeah, thank you.
Listeners
don't know that I am buckled into my chair here for podcasting because you see how distracted my hands get when I don't have anything to fiddle with while we're recording. Our listeners who also watch on YouTube know how idle and distracted I get. If I wasn't chained to this chair, then there's no telling where I'd be right now. I'd be chasing fruit flies around or dangling out the window. So I just need to be like stuck here for the duration of the recording.
I love that you chase fruit flies.
Yeah.
Like that's your aesthetic, like a butterfly. Like you're like, oh, gorgeous. I need a better look at that.
For my collection.
So longtime listeners of the podcast, the DOB devotees and the connoisseurans all know for a very long time, since the beginning of this podcast, I've been teasing out a present for Daniel. And at this point, everybody has sort of given up on that as being a real thing. Everyone's like, okay, there's never been an actual gift. It came about, the first time it got mentioned was right after I had bought it. And I wasn't even going to tell Daniel,
but he asked, "What's the most expensive thing you've ever bought?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you, I just bought something for you, actually. It's a pretty big deal. It's pretty expensive." And then it just has become this long thing where I occasionally check in. I'm like, "Hey, here's the status of this. I've talked to the guy. He wants to start over." That kind of shit.
Yeah.
I can give you the full rundown of it now because, ladies and gentlemen, the present has arrived at
It's
Daniel's
here.
house.
It's been so fun because there have been people in my own life and people in the comments and people who've written in for this show. Everyone has been curious about this, and it's the only thing I think in the run of this podcast that has inspired honest to God fan theories about people speculating. Like, I think like people who think it's been a bit from the beginning. People who think the endless trail of breadcrumbs that you've dropped is itself the present, that like following the clues is the thing that's gonna bring me the most joy. And like my relatives have asked me about it, and they're like, "Is this? I think it's this. I think it might be this kind of board game. I think it might be a puzzle." But da 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 da. And the boring truth the entire time has been like, no, it's just not here yet. Like it's at this point has been 6 years, but
6
even
years.
every year throughout this process, it was just like there's no deeper meaning behind it. It's not meta. There's not like a gift within a gift. It's just it's simply not here. And I'd encouraged people like just stop thinking about it. I have made peace with the fact that I'm never going to get it, and that's okay. And it would have gone down as the only unfinished loop in this podcast. Everything else we talked about is tied up and resolved. We've answered every question.
Yeah, we could
This would
basically
be
die
the
after
one
this.
loose thread. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been same here. Like people, my brother, other people come up to me and they're like, "Did you actually get Dan anything?" And all of them come with that question. They're not like, "What is it?" They're like, "It's nothing, right? You didn't get him anything." And I'm like, "No, I did, and it's been one of the worst experiences of my life trying to get it to him, trying to get this person to finish it, and then also like fights that I had with the creator of it, who I would come to occasionally, and I would say, "Hey, man, I'm getting the sense that this is not a project that you want to take on," because this would be up to like 2.5 years of hearing nothing,
Yeah.
right? I'd be like, "I'm getting the sense that this is not the project you want to take on. I'm fine if this is something that's like weighing on you and you need to bail on, then I totally understand." And I would get these these emails back that were like, "What? So you don't want it now?" And like really aggressive, like mad at me for even suggesting that, and being like, "I've got a lot," like emails that explain like, "I've got a lot going on in my life. I don't need this as well." And like you coming down hounding me. And I was like, "Okay, I'm just giving you the out because it seems like if I was in the same situation and I was taking this long, I would want the out. Like there's something about this that doesn't appeal to you, or like you've lost interest in it. But if you want this, you can have it." And the creator was like, "Obviously not. No, I'm working on it all the time." And I'm like, "I just don't know that I believe that, because I see you producing other things, and like other people are getting things, or you are creating things for yourself, and I see those posted, and so it feels." And I will admit that I don't have a lot of experience in this particular field, so I don't always know what it takes and I'm not seeing the same issues or anything like that. So perhaps this was a 6-year project.
Did he? Now I'm curious because I feel like when we show what the thing is, people will be able to guess the artist anyway. But I don't.
Yeah.
I who knows? I am very curious. I know that I guessed who the artist was based on you telling me about the fights you'd had with the artist.
Yeah.
Because I followed the artist online and had like reading certain things on their website about commissions. that this artist is very much the way that Kevin Durant doesn't think anyone should be allowed to say anything to basketball players at any time other than good job. This artist was very much in that world of like, yeah, I'm going to make great things. If you would all just leave me alone and expect nothing from me at all the time, then I'll do it. And if you hire me to do a commission, I'll do it. You are not allowed to ask me about it while I'm working on it, or I'll just spin into a rage. But so I guessed who the artist was based on some context clues, but I'm very curious. Probably the answer is no, based on the way he operates. But did he give you any kind of rough timeline when you first tried to get this? Because you did have like a normal, like my 2017 birthday, just like a normal birthday was like, oh, this will be good. So I imagine you had some kind of timeline in mind at the time, and I don't know that you would have. You certainly wouldn't have committed to 6 years. But did you have anything in mind, or that you had spoken to him about as far as like timeline expectations?
We didn't specifically talk about it, but in his breakdown of commissions, we're giving away a lot of details without actually telling everybody what it is. I'm sure that they're furious about this, but in the commissions, it says like, here's the timeline you can expect. Don't talk to me before this amount of time has passed. Generally, it takes around this amount of time, and it was a wide range. It would have put me at about, I started it about 9 months before your birthday, with the expectation that maybe I'll just give it to him. If it's not ready for this one, I will give it to him at his next one.
Yeah.
And then, then I was like, I'll just be holding on to this thing for a long period of time, because I thought for sure 9 months, 10 months, and maybe even a year it could take. But I didn't anticipate 6 years. And so it took a very long time. It's finally done. I am very excited about it. I'm happy that you have it. I'm happy to have it out of everyone's minds.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's talk about what this is.
Yes.
What did you receive, Daniel?
I received a large box in the mail, and I was so excited and like very large, like bigger than the thing needs to be, obviously, because there was a lot of like packing stuff around it. But I saw the return address. I saw that it was the artist, and I knew immediately this was the gift. I opened, and there's so much packing inflatable things in there to preserve this. It is a piece of custom start to finish art, like a heavy canvas that is like done by a real artist. And I'd never had anything like that shipped to me. No one has ever sent anything to me that needed to get here safely. It's all been
well, you lived here at the time
destroyed.
that I started this project, by the way. I didn't anticipate that there'd be shipping across the entire country.
So it was shipped, and I opened it, and it is my entire process of opening it, because you can see through some of the clear wrapping around it. It's not opaque, not transparent, translucent. There's translucent, so you can see a little bit of what's going on. And I can see there's uniforms that are like undeniably Star Trek uniforms. And I know that this is going to be, I knew that you wouldn't just get me a painting of Star Trek characters. Oh, so
you love Star Trek, though. You love space in general.
Unraveling the thing, I'm thinking, this is going to be, I just see a bunch of Star Trek shapes. This is going to possibly be, maybe the cast of After Hours as Star Trek characters. I don't think it's going to be that. Maybe it's going to be the cast of a different show that I do like as Star Trek characters. And as I'm unraveling it, I'm seeing more and more clearly that like this is definitely Let's
see if you can do the names. Come on.
That's the lady one.
Yep, that's right.
That's the lady one from Star Trek Next Generation. And it's
Dr. Crusher.
That should tell you that I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, and I'm a much bigger Star Wars fan. So now that I'm unraveling this and realizing, oh, this is Star Trek characters, is the joke gonna be is this sometimes, in the best way, Soren can be too clever. So is the joke that he spent a lot of money commissioning a Star Trek painting, even though I like Star Wars more? Is the joke gonna
Like
be
more that you don't even like, you hate Star Trek.
I don't like Star Trek. Yeah, that's I don't know why we're dancing around it. I haven't watched the show. I don't like it. So it's like, is the joke gonna be that on the giver of the gift? Is that like the meta joke that's here, that I'm gonna have this lifetime to appreciate Soren's wrongness? And as I'm thinking that might be the joke of this gift, I'm like prepping myself like, all right, man, you gotta really fucking pretend that you get it and you like it, because it's 6 years and it seems like a lot of money. So you like, whatever the joke is, you gotta really sell it as like, this is the best joke. And then it becomes clear when it's like fully naked and uncovered that it is not just the cast of Star Trek The Next Generation. Is the cast of Star Trek Next Generation, or the characters rather, a la a sports celebration, dumping a giant jug of Gatorade on Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who is the happiest he's ever been, getting doused with it, and he's surrounded by his crew who aren't super into doing it. They're not like having a great time.
No.
And I see the Gatorade and it immediately clicks for me that this is a very good gift and I don't need to pretend anything. And like the added bonus of the gift that like, that it's not what I thought it was, and that I don't have to pretend. It's like, oh, what a relief. And also, ha ha ha, this is very funny and I'm very happy. I'm certain we've talked about it on the podcast before, and long-term listeners know, but something that brought Soren and me so much endless joy is when we were filming After Hours, and it's 3:00 in the morning, and we're just so punch drunk and silly the way you are when it's 3:00 in the morning and you've been giving monologues about pop culture all day. You're waiting for the crew to move cameras around, or you're waiting for sound, or you're waiting for something. You're so tired, and it's
also deeply stressful. Like where you don't there. It's monologues that you memorized maybe 2 hours before that, because that's when the script was finished, and so you're a little nervous the entire time because you're gonna fuck it up for everybody, and everybody feels tired and wants to go home. And there's a very good chance that when the cameras are on you, we're gonna have to do a few takes because you're not gonna nail it.
And for whatever reason, we cheered ourselves up and cracked ourselves up doing an impression, like a bad impression of Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard asking for Gatorade. That was
loving Gatorade.
I have no idea how it started or why it started, but it just became like a reliable thing. We're both half dead, and it'll just be like, Riker, bring me some Gatorade, please. I just need, my electrolytes are so down. I just need a little bit. Color doesn't matter. I just need a little bit of thirst quencher. And now that I'm saying it, the color does matter. Yellow, not red. Riker. Where are we on the Gatorade, Riker? Right, Riker, please.
Yeah,
My
it
Gatorade.
was just
that was it.
It was so purely anachronistic that it was like it really tickled the sweet spot for us. And like it became to the point where like there were like whole scenarios where he's like about to fight the Borg and stuff, and he's like suggesting Gatorade as the solution, and it was just that he was so enamored with Gatorade from like the 90s that it became like his whole. He tried to shoehorn it into everything he was doing. And so no matter what the conversation was aboard the USS Enterprise, he was going to figure out a way to shoehorn some Gatorade into it.
And without thinking too deeply into the mechanics of the scenarios that we were creating, it was clear that even though there's a holodeck that can produce everything and it's the future and no one wants for anything, it was still somehow a hassle for the crew to get him Gatorade. It was still like very clear in these long meandering bits that we did. It was clear that like for whatever reason, Riker didn't want to go through the trouble of fetching the Gatorade for him.
Yeah, Yeah, there's atomizers in every room aboard the USS Enterprise where they can just manifest Gatorade if they want to, and it's still like they can't quite dial it in. Nobody can figure out how to get Gatorade for the rest of for Picard when he needs it, and like it's a real. He's starting to get a little mad. Like in all his scenarios, he's starting to get a little upset that like no one was producing this Gatorade and bringing it to him.
I have it now.
Okay.
Ba 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 ba. Is that the Star Trek theme? I don't know. Not a fan.
Stardate 465 to Starlog 4652793.
Look how pumped he is.
Wait. They seem to want control of our entire ship. I've promised them they could have it in return for some lemon lime Gatorade. And I don't want it watered down. I don't want it. I will be able to tell. That's
Data.
a gift,
Data.
everybody.
Mr. Data. This is Powerade.
Yeah, I
You
can
of
tell
all
the difference.
People should know.
This is shit.
Yeah.
So everyone's not psyched to be doing it. It's clearly something he made everyone do after a mission. Maybe where Gatorade worked. He's not. He's the only one who's into it, and everyone else is just going through the formalities. Yeah.
It's tremendous to have this immortal monument to the single thing that probably brought me the most joy in 10 years of doing After Hours was this weird, completely out of our minds delusional bit that we shared.
And so everyone knows the artist's name is Brandon Bird.
Yes.
And when I came to him with this, my original idea was I just was like, hey, will you do a commission of Picard sitting in the captain's chair and he just has an icy cold Gatorade there with him? And Brandon Bird was like, you know, it would be better. And he suggested this whole thing to me, and like just like got it immediately, and suggested this whole thing, this whole what you see there. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's way better. That's why you do this. And he like got the faces right. He nailed it. He nailed the emotion of it. He nailed what it should be, and he did a really great job. I'm going to say that now because I spent so much time early on in this podcast complaining about how it went, the process. But he did a wonderful job. I'm happy with the gift. I'm happy that you finally got it.
It's fantastic. And he also sent along a whole bunch of like original stickers. There's alternate universe Frasier with very long hair. There's like a baseball style trading card for the store Sears with like a brief history of Sears on the back Sears. As an action item. It's very good, and he's done a whole series of
Series. Mm-hmm. He did a whole series of Sears stores around the country, painted them, and then he's very good at. He's just got like a really good eye for what celebrity or character would be very funny in any particular circumstance. So he's got like a piece of art called No One Wants to Play Sega with Harrison Ford. And it's two kids, and I think they're on a beanbag and they're playing Nintendo. And Harrison Ford is standing 10 feet away forlornly, holding a whole Sega. And no one wants to play it. I gave my brother a painting long ago, like 20 years ago, and it's called Lazy Sunday, I think. And it's Christopher Walken in his basement building a very advanced robot, and sort of like kept getting caught by the camera and being like, oh, hey, just another one of these days where I'm working on my hobby, where I'm building a kill robot.
It's to the untrained ear, it might sound like standard internet mashup stuff, but it's something about his choices make it clear or it doesn't make it clear, but it's just like there's a line between some like an actual gifted magical artist who's good at coming up with these things and a random person on the internet who was just like, what if Married with Children but Sonic the Hedgehog? He for some reason his stuff is different and better and correct in a way that we can't really define, but there's like a series of actual Marvel comics called What If. There's now a TV show of it as well, and it's always like, what if the Avengers were zombies? These are the real ones. Or what if Captain America never took the super soldier serum and someone else did? He did the cover for a fake comic that was, what if Fraser Crane joined the Fantastic Four? And it's like a 1960s Marvel style illustration, like perfectly matched illustration style of the Fantastic Four with also Fraser. And not Kelsey Grammer, but Fraser. And he's saying, watch out, evil, I'm listening. And it's just, I can't explain why that's better than Sonic the Hedgehog in Married with Children, but it is. And he's just the master of this specific thing.
Right. It's such a unique skill. It's like knowing, he does a lot of Law and Order stuff, and just being obsessed enough with Law and Order that you could do a really good drawing of not drawing. You could do really good art of anyone from Law and Order is a very strange way to. Already the joke is funny. Already taking the time to lovingly care and draw Stabler is like a very funny thing. But then he'd have the whole Law and Order team all coming towards you in that sort of superhero montage and Batman in the middle. And it's I did want this.
Well, shout out to Brandon, and shout out to you, Soren. This is a fantastic gift, and you've continued to get me much better gifts than I've ever gotten you for any of your birthdays, and I like that I've never delivered. I like that you've never made me feel pressured to deliver a birthday gift as similarly special as you've given me over the years. I know that it's the act of giving is very nourishing to you, and so that is sort of what I give to you.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I want. You got me exactly what I wanted.
Great.
But yeah, it's hard to explain how much joy it brought Dan and I to just think about Captain Kirk. I'm sorry, Picard obsessed with Gatorade, and it was a real joy. And it was it was a thing that we just never let go of. Like every time it would start to get to be that time of night, and we just slip into Picard. Yeah, asking for another Gatorade, and no one around knew what was going on. Katie and Michael were like, they're like, okay, yeah, I get the joke. It's not funny. Yeah. It's not. There's nothing about it but we were. It was just. It was so good in our minds.
They were using their normal high functioning comedy minds to be like, oh, well, what is? Why is it funny? What are they doing? It can't be just a silly voice saying Gatorade. There's no way it's just that. All right, well, we have to roll now, so I'm sure we'll figure it out later. Oh, we can't roll. Why is that? And then we see Soren and I, and we're just like shaking with laughter, thinking about Rika.
Picard. Just saying the word Gatorade. It's such a fun word to put in his mouth. And I've obviously now been on American Dad for 6 years, and I've gotten the opportunity to record with Patrick Stewart a few times because he is Avery Bullock on our show. He plays the head of the CIA, which is itself its own joke because no one's asking him to do an American accent. So there's an English guy who runs the CIA. And every single time that I'm recording with him, I'm thinking about it.
He's drawn to, I believe, look like Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, he looks like... We did a Patrick Stewart. Yeah, they did a model of Patrick Stewart to be Avery Bullock. And it's just, every time that I'm recording with him, I'm just thinking about if I could, how do I tell him about this? How can I get him involved in the bit? And there's just no way. There's not a way to do it because the magic has to be in the moment of that insanity. And so I just every single time we get off and I'm like, oh, I just wanted him to say Gatorade.
Yeah. Right. It sucks that there's every chance that just the way the world and the internet works that some niece or granddaughter of Patrick Stewart is somehow a big fan of After Hours and then finds their way to this podcast. And one day we'll have him Grandpa, for TikTok, just say Gatorade, and he'll say it and they'll send it to us. And both of us will be like, nah, I don't want that. That's not
well, it's also because
that's not how he'd say it.
It's also got to be I need him in his uniform. I need him on the deck
I need him. I need him.
I
with,
need
like, a very
like
serious
a warning,
situation.
things going off. I need a lot of chaos. I need the fucking sparks that I don't even think happened in the Next Generation series. I think that was OG series, but I still need it.
I need him to be in a middle of like a battle of wits with Q, and to just to be like, I know the answer to your riddle. It's Gatorade.
What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 3 at night, and 2 in the afternoon? Gatorade.
Yeah,
She was
that's
like,
obviously
"What?"
icy mountain Gatorade. It was such a treat. Okay, well, good. I'm glad that you got it. I'm glad you got it right on your birthday too. That's
Yeah,
that's
really,
the
really
icing
special,
on the cake.
the timing. It was surprising to me that it came straight to me from the artist. He doesn't send it to you for approval or anything. Like, you didn't get to hold it and feel the weight of the thing, because it's really impressive.
Okay, no, I haven't. I have not been like tactile with it, but he along the way there was that point where he wanted to start over and stuff. Like, he gave me pictures and stuff when I would pressure him. When I would go and be like, "Hey, how's this going?" He would occasionally like send me photos and stuff and be like, "This is what I'm working on." I'm like, "This is great. This is wonderful." And he's like, "I'm not happy with the way Picard's body is looking or whatever." And he wanted to like change the frame size. He's like, I don't know if I could just give this to you, or I could make it the way I want to make it. And I was like, I would prefer that it be the way you want it. I wanted you to like it. And so he would go back, and then at the end when he finished, he sent it to me. So I got to see pictures of it, but I never got to actually hold the thing, or like see the colors in person. But I was fine with that. It wasn't for me.
You know what incredibly shitty thought I had in the shower just before recording was that we announced that the gift came, but then only explained it and showed it on a Patreon exclusive episode, just to give us like a short, like truly 1 month trial period bump of subscriptions, just for people to be like, all right, okay, it's $5, fine. They see it's like, okay, it's painting. Okay, great. No, I don't care about the backstory. All right, cancel subscription now. It's like, it's too late, baby. We already got that $5.
I wonder how many people listen to this podcast, and we teased it a ton on this podcast, like just today. How many people are like getting to minute 28 and we still haven't, we talked about the painting, but we have not talked about even what it is yet. And everyone's just like, fucking pull forward, scan forward.
Some of that is by design, because I want people listening to the episode and to reach the part where you say, should we just tell them what it is? And I say yes. And then they hit the skip ahead 30 seconds button. And there's this weird digression where I'm going, which one is it? Transparent? Translucent? It's not opaque. I want people swerving their cars into trees because they're just so fed up with the strange tangents that are a hallmark of this show that they chose to listen to.
It's on you, honestly. I should have described it to people who don't watch don't watch this. I guess we kind of did.
We did, yeah.
If you wanted to understand it, yeah, it's Commander Riker, it's Worf, it's Diana Troy, and it's Geordi
LaForge.
Yeah,
that's her name I know. Data,
and they are basically the winning football team. Only they are not excited about it. They all look like this is just another job that they have to do. And Picard is in the front, and Picard is getting gushed with Gatorade. Just the whole thing of Gatorade thrown on him, and he's so fucking pleased.
It's really great stuff. And that's probably going to do it for our accent episode, right?
That's the accent episode. Thanks for listening to it. That's what we'll title
promised.
it too.
Yeah.
Surely that will be the most important thing about this episode.
The show is Quick Question, but you all knew that already. You can find the show on Twitter and Patreon, and you're going to email the show at qqwithsorenanddaniel@gmail.com. We are recorded, edited, and produced by Jacob Weinstein today and Gabe Harder. The days when it's not Jacob. They are a team, and we love them both. Our theme song is by the fantastic Me-Rex, that you can find their music on Bandcamp or Spotify. The show, if you couldn't pick up from context clues of the things that we talked about today, it's available on YouTube. You can see our faces and see the painting that we've described twice in this episode. You can see what it looks like and get some sense of the heft of it when I briefly drop it on the bench, and you could hear a kind of a boom sound. And the Patreon is where we release bonus episodes twice a month for paid subscribers. We're very grateful for them. You can also get it on Apple Podcasts, and there's a different theme song for the Patreon episodes, and that is really good. I'm flying dead stick here. Did I get everything? Did I hit it all?
Yeah.
You can find Soren and I both on Bluesky. I did some jokes recently that Soren retweeted, and I got a huge boost from it.
Yeah. Good. I'm
Still
so glad
kind
to have
of
done that for you.
Getting the ripple effects of the buoy boost from a week ago.
That's it. Bye.
Right.
I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all the right wings on? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien, two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.